be here. So glad I could come. I was going to bring Brother with me, but he's got a deal going with Uncle Nabob, and he couldn't get away. He's helping Uncle Nabob. Last Christmas, Uncle Nabob gave his wife a gift, Miss Aunt Ambrosia, and he said he wasn't going to give her anything this year because she hadn't used what he gave her last year. And so Brother's going to take that off of his hands, and what it was a tombstone. Brother said he'd be all fixed in case he needed a tombstone. But they're in business. They got another business going. Uncle Nabob wanted to get him a mule. Now, he didn't really know what a mule looked like, but they heard of a man across the country that had some mules. So they went over there, and he was out of mules, but he said, here's an egg you can use to hatch you a mule. So they both, Brother should have known better. They bought him an egg and got it all wrapped up in a pickup truck and started home with it. And they hit a rough place, and when they did, what it was a watermelon. And they hit a rough place, and that watermelon bounced out. And just as it hit the ground, it hit a big, long-legged jackrabbit. And it took off to running, and Brother hollered, "Stop the truck! The mule egg is hatched." So they got out and started running after that mule, and they went over the hills and the hollers through the briar patches, and they run till they give out. And Uncle Nabob said, "Let it go. I didn't want to plow that fast anyway." Oh, but there ain't no flies on Brother. Not since we had DDT anyway. But Brother is always out trying to do something with Rod Brassfield. And him and Rod had a business going too. And he got him in trouble because he sent him to Minnie Pearl. That's my name. And he asked Minnie Pearl if she'd picked out her pallbearers. And she said, "No, I'm not going to have any pallbearers." And he said, "Oh, you have to have pallbearers." And she said, "No, I don't." Said, "If these men don't take me out while I'm alive, they're sure not going to take me out after I'm dead." But there's 3 phases in a man's life, and I'm going to read them. Excuse me. It says there are four stages in a man's life, and the first one is when you believe in Santa Claus, and the second one is whenever you are Santa Claus, and the last one is when you look like Santa Claus. So we got a few people around looks like Santa Claus. But I want to tell you about my fella, Eddie, my feller. He has been a while. But the other night we were standing down by the creek where it was all quiet and the moon shining. And Hezzy said, "Oh, Minnie Pearl," that's my name, Minnie Pearl. He said, "If you could be anything in the world, what would you like to be?" And I said, "Oh, Hezzy, if I could be anything, I'd like to be a rose on your lapel." Minnie, and she said, well, I don't know. He said, I'd like to be an octopus with 8 arms. Then I could hold you tight. And I said, I don't know what you want with 8 arms. You're not using the 2 you already have. But Hattie, later that night, he kind of warmed up to me. And he felt so good to just have Hattie to hug me. But anyway, I have some more fellas. And the other night, 2 of my girlfriends, we decided that we'd go out with these fellas and we'd signify how many times they kissed us by saying good morning. So in the morning, when I got up first and I was having my coffee, and little Eula Faye came downstairs and she said, oh, good morning, just grinning. And it wasn't but just a minute to come, here comes Peggy Joyce, and she said, oh, good morning, good morning, good morning. And then here comes Hester Marie. And it would have took at least a dozen lemons to wipe that smile off of her face. And she said, good morning, good morning, good morning. It's a fine morning this morning. If this is pretty morning in the morning as it is this morning, it'll be a pretty morning in the morning, And I said, howdy. We had a big snow not very long ago, and the kids were out of school, and Brother goes to the country school there in Grinder Switch. That's where we live, Grinder Switch. And when they went back to school, the teacher asked them if they've used those days conservatively. And Brother said, oh, yes, I did. Said, I prayed all the time for more snow. But Brother is smart, and so is Rodney, and so is Uncle Nabob. And Ambrosia is a sweet, sweet, darling little thing. And Rodney asked her if she'd always had a healthy life. And she said, oh, yes, I have. And he said, well, what I mean is, have you ever been bedridden? And she said, oh, yes, honey, hundreds of times, and 3 times in the buggy.
Pick those up for me.
Uncle Nabob and Aunt Ambrosia went on a little vacation 2 days ago, and Aunt Ambrosia was going to read the map, and they were going out through the country, and she went to sleep. And they got lost. When she woke up, they was lost, and they had a fuss. And I think that was somebody said that was Bob and his wife, but I doubt that it was. But anyway, they had a fight, and they wouldn't speak to each other, but they went on out through the country, and they come through this long channel, and there was an old long-headed mule standing down there in the field, and she had her eyes kind of glued on him. And he said, is that some of your kin folks? And she said, only by marriage. They went on their vacation, and they went to check out of the motel the next morning, and they said to Uncle Nabob, well, you owe us $400. And he said, $400? What do you mean, $400? And he said, well, I see here you were charged $100 for riding the horse. And he said, I'll have you know I didn't ride your horse. He said, well, he was here. She'd have wanted to. And said, here's another $100 for the swimming pool. Sir, I didn't go in your swimming pool. And said, well, it was here. She'd have wanted to. And said, here's where you drove our golf cart. And, well, I didn't drive your golf cart. And so finally he said, I'll tell you what, I'll settle with you, but since you owe me $300 for kissing my wife, he said, well, I'll have you know I didn't kiss your wife. And he said, well, she was there if you'd wanted This young minister came to our community, and he loved to play golf, but he never had time. So one Sunday morning, he did the unpardonable thing. He called in and told them that he was sick. So he went out on the golf course, and the first one he hit, there was two little angels over in the tree, and one of them just scooped down and got that ball and dropped it in the hole-in-one. And he was, the other angel come down and congratulated him, and that one said, well, why'd you do that for? And he said, well, no harm done. Said, who can he tell he made a hole-in-one?
She's something else.
Brother got him a new thermos jug. One that he told Uncle Nabob about it. He said you can put hot and you can put cold, and it'll keep it that way. And he said, what have you got in it today? And he said, I got chili and tea. Well, you all think that I'm nervous because I'm shaking, but I'm not nervous. I just have Parkinson's disease. But anyway, I want to thank you all for coming. It's such a big crowd here. I never dreamed it'd be this many. And I thank you for coming out, each and every one, and may you have a